So my name is Alex, and up until recently, I was the nursing recruitment coordinator at the King Faisal Specialist Hospital in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. I traveled to Saudi Arabia because my backstory is that I was a nurse, and then I became a recruiter with Helen Ziegler and Associates. And it was my role as a recruiter that I learned about what it was like living in Saudi Arabia through conversations with my recruits, with hospital staff over there, and I just found myself wanting to experience that for myself and wanting to go for it. So when I first arrived in Saudi Arabia, I had already visited the country a couple years prior through working with Helen Ziegler and Associates. So my first impressions were what I'd already seen before on my visit a couple years prior, or just what I had heard through former recruits. But what I found very surprising was how quickly I was able to make friends and as well get involved in all the social activities that Riyadh has to offer. My favorite thing to do in Saudi Arabia was actually all the different forms of Latin dance that they have. What I found surprising is that salsa and other forms of Latin dance are actually quite big there. And I developed a pattern where I was going out dancing about once or twice a week. There's many social activities that are available in Riyadh. There's a lot of sports teams. The Gaelic football is very big. There's hockey, basketball, soccer, cricket, even if you're into it. And then there's loads of fitness groups, boot camps, spinning classes, there's trampoline classes, just really anything you can think of, it's actually available there. So in order to find different social clubs in Riyadh, they're not advertised like they would be at home, but very quickly you hear of them through word of mouth, and people are always open and willing to adding you to any kind of social group that they're part of. When I first got to Riyadh, like everyone, I did experience a bit of culture shock, and it's just mainly to do any kind of everyday activity. Initially, it feels like there's always a couple steps or obstacles you need to get through. So if you know there's anywhere you want to travel in the city, it's learning how to use the taxi service, use a driver. You very quickly learn that there are no addresses, so it's learning how to use maps very efficiently. But after really no time at all, it becomes second nature. As a woman living in Saudi Arabia, I actually didn't feel that different living there than I did at home. There are cultural customs that I did have to get involved in. I did have to dress more conservatively, including wearing the abaya when I was out in public. I was a traveler before moving to Saudi Arabia, so it might be that I'm a bit more adaptable in getting involved in a new culture. But in the end, I didn't feel that I had to change anything about myself, and I felt at ease living there. Having to wear the abaya every day didn't actually bother me at all. While you're at work at the hospital, you don't wear it. Clinical staff like nurses wear scrubs, and administration staff like me, they just wear business casual clothes. But when you're out in the city, you do have to wear it as a woman. They're usually very lightweight. You can wear whatever you want underneath, and I felt it was pretty easy to not have to think about what I was going to wear that day and just throw one of the various ones that I owned over top of what I was wearing. What initially attracted me to a position in Saudi Arabia was the opportunity to travel. When I worked for Helen Ziegler and Associates, one thing we consistently always heard from former recruits is all the different countries that they got to go to. So personally for me, my goal was to do as much travel as possible. I managed to go to many countries while I was over there. I went to Lebanon and Jordan. I went to all the local GCC countries, UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, and Bahrain, and Oman. And I went to parts of Africa like Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Uganda. And I managed to as well go to Turkey and Portugal as well. My one piece of advice to anyone moving to Saudi Arabia is just being open to anything that's offered to you. Initially, you're going to be invited to so many different events and activities, and just being open to trying all these different things, you'll find you'll meet friends almost immediately, and you'll very quickly find what you want to do while you're over there. Now that I've finished my contract in Saudi Arabia, I'm actually going to be moving to the UK for school. And I'm actually able to do this through all the money that I saved in my 2 years in Saudi Arabia. Without doing the contract, I don't think that this would have been possible for me. I would definitely recommend working in Saudi Arabia to anyone. From my personal experience, I was able to travel more than I ever thought I could in the 2 years that I was there. I saved a lot of money, more than I ever thought I could. And the biggest thing for me was that I made such close friends when I was there, and they'll be my best friends for life.